Hello, I'm Tavon, and this is your top story on Newsstream. Tonight, global markets are reeling and international tensions are on the rise as China has dramatically escalated its trade war with the United States. In a bold and retaliatory move, Beijing has announced an increase in tariffs on all U.S. imports, from an already hefty 84% to a staggering 125%. This latest development comes just hours after Chinese President Xi Jinping delivered a message of caution.
美方仍在对中国滥施关税，一味地进行极限施压，对这种霸道霸凌行径，中方坚决反对，绝不接受。美方如果真的想通过对话谈判解决问题，就应该拿出平等、尊重、互惠的态度。如果美方置两国和国际社会的利益于不顾，执意打关税战、贸易战，中方必将奉陪到底。
Stating that there are no winners in a tariff war. His remarks, made during a high-profile meeting with Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez, were part of China's broader diplomatic push to rally international allies, especially in the European Union, against what she calls unilateral bullying by the US. But while the message was diplomatic, the action was anything but. In a statement released by China's Commerce Ministry earlier today, officials declared they are ready to fight to the end and warned that at this level, there is no market acceptance for US goods exported to China. The ministry also hinted that more countermeasures could follow if Washington continues its tariff campaign. Markets across Asia took a nosedive following the announcement. Japan's Nikkei dropped nearly 5%, while Hong Kong stocks are on track for their worst weekly loss since the 2008 financial crash. Oil prices, too, are down for the second week in a row, as fears of a global recession mount. Let's watch this clip. On the US front, President Trump's trade strategy continues to draw criticism, even from allies. French President Emmanuel Macron warned that the White House's 90-day pause on some tariffs, which applies to dozens of countries but not China, remains fragile. Macron said this so-called pause has only extended uncertainty for businesses on both sides of the Atlantic. President Xi, meanwhile, isn't staying still. He's met with leaders from Spain, South Africa, and Saudi Arabia, and is planning to visit Southeast Asia next week, including Vietnam and Cambodia. Xi's goal: strengthen trade ties and push back against Washington's economic offensive. In response, the US has opened trade talks with Vietnam and hinted at negotiations with Taiwan. However, China remains firmly out of any discussions as the Trump administration ramps up tariffs on Chinese imports to 145%. Despite the escalating tension, President Trump told reporters he still believes a deal is possible, stating, "I think we'll end up working out something that's very good for both countries." However, Beijing remains defiant. Chinese officials say they will not sit idly by while their nation is targeted and international trade norms are undermined. The economic fallout is already being felt. Wall Street's S&P Wink with tongue sticking out 500 dropped 3.5% on Thursday, putting it down 15% from its peak. Goldman Sachs now pegs the risk of a U.S. recession at 45%. And according to researchers at Yale, the average U.S. import duty is now the highest it's been in over a century. Meanwhile, U.S. companies continue to feel the heat, facing higher costs, delayed shipments, and falling demand. And while the European Union has temporarily paused its own retaliatory tariffs, the global trade landscape remains as uncertain and volatile as ever. We'll be watching this story closely as it develops. For continuing coverage on this global trade showdown, stay tuned right here on Newsstream.